Nobody, and I mean nobody, could have predicted that 2 years after the biggest rap beef of this generation, things would somehow get even worse for Drake. Because what just happened behind the scenes with Kendrick Lamar has industry people quietly admitting that this was never just a diss battle. This was a career execution in slow motion. And trust me, you are not ready for this. Stay till the end because every layer of this story gets nastier, more calculated, and honestly more embarrassing the deeper you pull the file on it. Now before the Drake defense squad jumps into the comments screaming bias, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button right now because I am just the messenger. Do not get mad at me because your favorite Six God, Canadian Hit Factory, certified glaze and drizzle ambassador somehow turned one rap battle into a 2-year industry identity crisis. Read the room. And here is where it gets interesting. Insider sources around the music business are saying labels, streamers, and even artists who used to move carefully around Drake are now treating Kendrick like the undisputed final boss of hip-hop. We are talking about streaming records, stadium power, cultural respect, and something even more dangerous, silence from Drake himself. Let us roll the tape. The crazy thing about this entire situation is that people keep talking about the battle like it ended in 2024, when in reality the damage has been spreading quietly for almost 2 full years. That is the part casual fans are still refusing to understand. They think this was just about diss tracks and Instagram memes. No, Kendrick turned this into a long-term perception war, and somehow Drake walked directly into every single trap like a man speedrunning a public relations disaster. I am serious. Pull the file on this. Every move Drake made after Not Like Us somehow made the song hit harder. That should not even be possible, but here we are. And let us stop pretending this was some normal rap beef. This was not Jay-Z versus Nas where both legends walked away with scars but kept their crowns. This was not 50 Cent bullying everybody during the mixtape era, while labels secretly cashed checks behind the scenes. Kendrick approached this like a calculated industry takedown. Every diss felt engineered to attack a different part of Drake's empire. One record questioned authenticity. Another questioned his relationships in the industry. Another attacked the way audiences viewed him culturally. And then Not Like Us arrived and turned the entire thing into a stadium anthem. That was the kill shot. Because once the public starts dancing to your humiliation, the beef is no longer staying inside hip-hop. Now here is where it gets interesting. Behind closed doors, industry people started reacting differently almost immediately after the battle ended. You started hearing whispers that executives were nervous about attaching themselves too heavily to Drake's image, while Kendrick suddenly became the symbol of artistic credibility again. And before the Drake Avengers come flying into the comments section wearing OVO capes, relax. We are talking perception. Drake still streams insane numbers. He still sells tours. But the aura changed. Read the room. There was a time when Drake walked into every rap conversation like the untouchable final boss of streaming. Labels built entire marketing strategies around trying to recreate the Drake formula. Melodic rap, playlist dominance, viral hooks, algorithm food. But after Kendrick dismantled him publicly, suddenly that formula started looking manufactured instead of unstoppable. And Drake did not help himself at all. That is the brutal part. Instead of disappearing for a second and recalibrating, this man kept moving like nothing happened while the internet dissected every lyric, every selfie, every caption, every interview clip like it was evidence in a federal investigation. I have never seen anything like it. Fans were pulling streaming data, concert footage, old collaborations, even leaked messages trying to figure out how deep the damage really went. And every month there was another weird headline attached to Drake. Another awkward viral moment. Another clip where people said he looked disconnected. Kendrick, meanwhile, silent, focused, strategic. That silence became louder than interviews. And please do not underestimate the power of timing in the music industry, because this is where the conversation gets uncomfortable. Kendrick picked the perfect moment to strike. Drake was already dealing with audience fatigue whether fans want to admit it or not. You can only dominate every playlist, every feature, every summer anthem for so many years before people start craving something different. The industry always does this. We saw it happen to Lil Wayne after his peak mixtape run. We saw it happen when audiences started turning on the glossy commercial era of rap in the early 2000s. Hip-hop loves building kings, but it also gets bored and starts sharpening knives the second dominance feels too comfortable. And Kendrick understood that psychology perfectly. That is what makes this whole thing terrifying from a strategic standpoint. He did not just attack Drake as a rapper. He attacked him as a brand, as a cultural figure, as a machine. Suddenly, every criticism Drake spent years avoiding all got bundled together into one giant narrative that spread across social media like wildfire. Ghostwriting accusations came back. Questions about authenticity came back. Questions about image came back. Even people who never cared about rap discourse started repeating Kendrick lyrics in clubs, at basketball games, on TikTok, everywhere. You know the situation is catastrophic when casual audiences start participating in your downfall recreationally. And I am just the messenger. And the moment people really knew this situation had gone nuclear was when the industry itself started moving differently around Kendrick. That is the detail most fans missed because they were too busy arguing on social media like unpaid OVO interns. Look carefully at what happened after the battle. Kendrick did not flood the market with random features. He did not jump online every 5 minutes explaining bars. He moved like somebody who knew the culture had already chosen a side. That confidence was terrifying. Meanwhile, Drake kept trying to stabilize the conversation through volume. More appearances. More sneak disses. More cryptic captions. More songs that sounded like they were designed by a committee of streaming analysts inside a Toronto skyscraper at 3 in the morning. Read the room. And here's where it gets worse. The numbers actually make this situation look even crazier. Because despite Drake still putting up gigantic streaming totals, the narrative around those numbers completely changed after the beef. Before Kendrick, people treated Drake's dominance like proof of untouchable greatness. After Kendrick, suddenly critics started using those same numbers against him. They started calling his music algorithm rap, playlist rap, microwave music. I am telling you, Kendrick shifted the language around Drake in real time. That is not normal. Usually when an artist is this commercially successful, the industry protects them. But Kendrick somehow made it cool to question Drake publicly without looking bitter. That is a dangerous cultural shift. Let us roll the tape for a second. Remember how artists used to treat Drake collaborations like golden tickets. One feature from him could change your entire career overnight. Labels would practically perform Olympic gymnastics trying to secure a Drake verse. But after the battle, there was this weird hesitation in the air. Some artists still worked with him, obviously, because business is business and streams are streams. But the energy changed. Suddenly people looked more careful about publicly attaching themselves to him during moments of controversy. That invincible aura started cracking. And once artists smell vulnerability in hip-hop, it spreads fast. Now I know somebody is typing furiously right now saying, "But Drake is still richer and bigger than Kendrick. Congratulations, you discovered capitalism." Nobody said Drake became a SoundCloud rapper overnight. That is not the point. The point is that Kendrick managed to damage something even more valuable than temporary numbers. He damaged perception. Hip-hop runs on perception. Always has. That is why image collapses in rap history hit harder than in almost any other genre. Once the audience starts questioning authenticity, confidence, and respect all at once, every move afterward feels different. And Drake kept accidentally feeding the narrative. Every time he tried to act unbothered, the internet turned it into another meme. Every time he previewed music, people compared it back to Kendrick. Every public appearance became a psychological evaluation by social media detectives with too much free time and Wi-Fi access. I have genuinely never seen fans analyze another artist this way before. People were studying body language like they were FBI profilers. Why did Drake pause during this interview? Why did he post that caption? Why does this song sound defensive? It became a full-time occupation for the internet. Meanwhile, Kendrick was moving like a ghost. Rare appearances, minimal talking, strategic performances. That silence created mystery, and mystery in hip-hop always multiplies power. And let us discuss the Super Bowl conversation because this is where the situation started looking historic instead of just dramatic. The fact that Kendrick ended up standing on one of the biggest stages in entertainment, while Not Like Us became a cultural phenomenon, changed everything. That was bigger than rap beef. That was mainstream validation of the narrative. You know how insane that is? We are talking about a diss record influencing pop culture on a level usually reserved for global smash hits. Clubs were playing it. Sporting events were playing it. TikTok creators were dancing to it. Entire crowds screaming lyrics aimed at Drake became normal public behavior. Pull the file on that. Hip-hop history does not have many moments like this. Honestly, the closest comparison might be when Pusha T exposed Drake during the Story of Auditon era, except Kendrick amplified the scale by 1,000. Pusha embarrassed Drake personally. Kendrick shifted the entire public conversation around him culturally. Those are two completely different levels of damage. One is gossip. The other is mythology. And the scary part for Drake is that time has not healed this situation at all. Usually rap beefs fade after a few months because fans move on to the next controversy. But this one keeps resurfacing every single time Drake drops music or makes headlines. It follows him everywhere now like an invisible watermark on his career. And I know Drake fans hate hearing that, but read the room. If your biggest rival can disappear for months while the internet continues repeating his accusations without him saying a single word, that means the narrative escaped the music and entered the culture permanently. And trust me, what happened next behind the scenes with labels, touring conversations, and certain industry relationships allegedly shifting? Yeah, nobody saw that coming. Now this is the section of the story where the industry politics start looking very ugly, because behind all the memes and viral clips, there is a business conversation happening that most fans never get to see. And according to people connected to labels, management teams, and touring companies, Kendrick's victory created a chain reaction nobody expected to get this serious. We are not just talking about rap fans arguing online anymore. We are talking about corporations quietly reevaluating where cultural power actually lives. That is a completely different level of war. Because think about it. For almost 15 years, Drake represented safety to the music industry. Predictable streams. Predictable chart success. Predictable engagement. He was basically the human version of a stock market investment. If you attached your platform, your artist, your playlist, or your brand to Drake, chances were you were going to make money. Simple. That is why labels protected him so aggressively for years. He was not just a rapper at that point. He was infrastructure. Pull the file on this. Entire streaming strategies across the industry started copying the Drake blueprint. Constant releases, playlist-friendly production, viral captions, feature domination, emotional hooks engineered to circulate on social media like digital currency. But Kendrick exposed the weakness hiding inside that formula. Because once audiences start feeling like music is calculated instead of authentic, the machine suddenly looks less magical. And Kendrick weaponized that perfectly. He made Drake's consistency start looking artificial instead of legendary. That is why the backlash hit differently. It was psychological. Fans started revisiting old Drake moments through a completely new lens. Old interviews, old collaborations, old ghostwriting accusations. Even the way Drake speaks publicly started getting analyzed differently. Kendrick turned Drake into a permanent discussion topic instead of just an artist. And let me say something people are scared to admit. The younger generation of rap fans does not view Drake the same way older fans did during his peak dominance. That invincible mythology is fading. Newer audiences grew up in an era where Drake was already the established giant, so they do not have the same emotional attachment to his rise. Kendrick understood that perfectly. He attacked Drake at the exact moment where cultural fatigue was beginning to settle in naturally. Timing matters in hip-hop more than people realize. Read the room. Now here's where it gets really interesting. There were insiders claiming certain executives became nervous about how aggressively the internet was turning against Drake culturally. Not financially, culturally. Those are two different conversations. Because yes, Drake can still generate enormous revenue tomorrow if he drops an album. Nobody is debating that. But culture determines longevity. Culture decides whether people respect your dominance or merely tolerate it because you are successful. Huge difference. And suddenly Kendrick became the artist representing real hip-hop, again in mainstream conversations. That shift alone is massive. We have not seen a lyrical, album-focused rapper gain this level of cultural momentum in years. Usually the industry sidelines artists like Kendrick into the critical acclaim but lower mainstream impact category. Kendrick completely shattered that narrative after the battle. Not Like Us was playing everywhere. Stadiums, clubs, TikTok, sporting events, family cookouts. You could not escape it. Do you understand how terrifying that is from Drake's perspective? A diss record became a universal anthem while the target of the diss had to sit there and watch the entire world scream the lyrics back at him in public. And Drake's responses after the battle only deepened the perception problem. Every attempt to move on looked awkward because the internet refused to let him move on. Every new song got compared to Kendrick. Every bar got dissected for hidden insecurity. Every public appearance turned into a meme factory within minutes. I honestly think Drake underestimated how much social media culture changed during his run. This is not 2016 anymore, where one Instagram caption could control the narrative for a week. Now audiences move like organized digital investigators. They screenshot everything, archive everything, remix everything. The internet became Kendrick's unofficial street team without him even trying. Meanwhile, Kendrick operated with frightening discipline. No endless interviews. No emotional rants. No over-explaining. Just calculated appearances and strategic silence. That silence made him look even more powerful because people started projecting mythology onto him. The less he spoke, the more the culture spoke for him. That is rare. Very rare. And here is the detail nobody wants to say out loud. Some artists in the industry quietly enjoyed watching Drake lose power. Oh yes. Let us stop pretending everybody loved the era of Drake dominance behind the scenes. A lot of rappers spent years feeling overshadowed by him commercially. Labels prioritized Drake-style artists for almost a decade straight. Some veterans felt pushed aside. Some younger artists felt forced to imitate him to survive. So when Kendrick cracked the armor publicly, you could almost feel certain corners of hip-hop celebrating in silence. Not publicly, of course, because everybody still wants access to Drake's connections and audience. But privately? Different story. And I am telling you right now, the industry has seen moments like this before. This feels eerily similar to when audiences started turning on the glossy commercial dominance of certain rap eras in the past. The energy changes first. Then the narratives change. Then eventually the power structure changes too. That does not mean Drake disappears overnight. Relax. But it does mean the untouchable image may never fully recover. And what happened during those private meetings involving future partnerships, media positioning, and major platform conversations afterward? Yeah. That is where this entire story allegedly becomes something far bigger than rap beef. And this is exactly where the story stops being Kendrick beat Drake in a rap battle and starts becoming something way more uncomfortable for the entire music industry. Because once executives, media platforms, and artists start realizing that public perception can shift this dramatically against the biggest streaming rapper alive, everybody starts moving differently. The fear is no longer about one diss track. The fear is about instability. And trust me, labels hate instability more than anything. See, Drake's dominance was built on consistency. Year after year, project after project, feature after feature, he became the safest possible bet in modern music. Even people who claimed they hated Drake still listened to Drake. That was his superpower. He mastered omnipresence. You could not escape him if you tried. Grocery stores, clubs, NBA broadcasts, TikTok trends, playlists, Instagram captions, luxury brand events everywhere. Drake turned himself into a permanent soundtrack for internet culture. That level of saturation usually protects artists from public collapse, because audiences become too familiar with them to imagine the industry without them. But Kendrick found the one weakness that could crack that armor: overexposure. And once he exposed it, everything started spiraling at once. Suddenly people were saying Drake sounded repetitive. Suddenly fans were questioning whether his music still felt inspired. Suddenly every rollout felt less like an artistic moment and more like another corporate product launch from the OVO content distribution department. I am sorry, but somebody had to say it. Read the room. And here is where it gets truly nasty. Some industry insiders allegedly started comparing Drake's current situation to what happened to certain megastars in previous generations once audiences decided they represented the old dominant system. That is dangerous territory in hip-hop because rap moves fast. Faster than almost any genre. Once younger listeners decide somebody feels too calculated, too polished, or too protected by the machine, the culture starts looking for the next symbol of authenticity immediately. Kendrick positioned himself perfectly for that moment. He became the anti-machine while still winning commercially. That combination is almost unbeatable. Usually artists who represent lyrical purity do not dominate mainstream culture at this level anymore. But Kendrick somehow managed to become both the critical darling and the cultural juggernaut simultaneously. That is why this entire thing shook the industry so hard. It broke the normal rules. And Drake's silence on certain accusations only made things worse online. Let us be honest. The internet does not interpret silence the same way it used to. In older rap eras, staying quiet sometimes made artists look above the drama. Now, social media treats silence like an active confession, unless you completely overpower the narrative another way. And Drake never fully regained control of the narrative after Kendrick dropped "Not Like Us." The memes multiplied too quickly. The public joke spread too far. The song became too unavoidable. You know a situation is catastrophic when even people outside hip-hop start recognizing the references. Grandmothers on Facebook knew about a minor. Sports commentators were quoting Kendrick lyrics. College students who do not even follow rap debates were dancing to diss records at parties. Pull the file on that. We are talking about a cultural event, not just a music moment. And the business side became even more awkward afterward because Drake still had obligations. Tours, brand alignments, streaming partnerships, collaborations, public appearances. He could not simply disappear for 2 years and meditate in the mountains like a kung fu movie character. The machine had to keep running. But every appearance reopened the conversation again. Every new move got measured against Kendrick's accusations. Every release got treated like a test. Can Drake recover culturally? Can Drake make people forget? Can Drake reclaim the aura? That became the permanent conversation surrounding him. Meanwhile, Kendrick looked increasingly untouchable because he did the exact opposite. Minimal exposure, maximum impact. He moved like somebody completely aware that the culture was already carrying his message for him. That is elite strategy. Honestly, it reminds me of how Tupac Shakur used silence and mystery during certain moments to let public imagination build mythology naturally. Not saying the situations are identical, relax before the comment section explodes, but the psychological effect feels similar. When the audience starts mythologizing an artist instead of merely consuming their music, their influence becomes much bigger than charts. And let us discuss the fan reactions because this might be the wildest part of all. Drake fans spent months trying to defend him using streaming numbers, chart placements, ticket sales, all of that. But Kendrick supporters were arguing from a completely different angle. They were talking about respect, legacy, cultural authority, artistic integrity. Those are harder arguments to defeat because they are emotional rather than numerical. Hip-hop has always valued respect more than statistics eventually. Numbers matter, yes, but perception determines how history remembers you. And that is the terrifying question hanging over this entire story right now. What happens if Drake remains commercially successful but never fully regains cultural invincibility? Because those are not the same thing. One makes you rich, the other makes you legendary. And according to whispers coming from certain media circles and executive conversations, the next phase of this entire saga may already be unfolding quietly behind the scenes right now. So at this point, the real question is not whether Drake can still sell records, because obviously he can. The real question is whether the culture will ever look at him the same way again after Kendrick Lamar turned one rap battle into a permanent conversation about authenticity, legacy, and power. That is the part people are still struggling to process. Kendrick did not just win a moment. He may have changed Drake's reputation forever. And if even half of these insider whispers about labels, media executives, and industry relationships shifting behind the scenes are true, then trust me, this story is nowhere near over. But I want to hear from y'all. Did Kendrick completely destroy Drake's untouchable aura? Or are people exaggerating because the internet loves drama? And more importantly, can Drake ever fully recover culturally? Or will Not Like Us follow him for the rest of his career like hip-hop's version of a permanent scar? Read the room. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn notifications on because the next breakdown gets even crazier. We are about to pull the file on what certain artists allegedly said behind closed doors after the battle ended. And let me tell you right now, nobody saw that coming. I am just the messenger.